This video will guide you through the RGP application form. The first area to have a look at is on the left-hand side of the screen. It is important to note that incomplete applications will not be accepted. It is advisable to look through this form and collect all the documentation that you require prior to completing this. You must pay close attention to points 1 to 4 on the left side of the screen. At the top of the screen you've got 7 tabs from A to G. Introduction, nominal details, qualifications, employment history, personal statement, additional information and declaration. You've also got sub-tabs A1, A2, A3 and A4. First things first, we'll have a look at the compatibility issues. Please avoid older versions of Internet Explorer when completing the form. You'll see that there's a mandatory drop-down field for you to tell us which device you'll be using. This allows us to check whether there's any compatibility issues going forward in the future. Tab A2 suggests that you should check the eligibility prior to completing the rest of the form. We'll jump to tab A3 eligibility criteria for a moment. Applicants must be British and have been resident in Gibraltar for at least 3 years. There are certain exemptions to the residency part of the requirement as listed below. It's important to note that the exemptions are only valid if the required probationary period has been completed. A new requirement prior to the application is the RGP Police Entrance Exam. Applicants must hold a valid and in-date RGP exam certificate and code. Exam validity can be checked on our website under the Frequently Asked Questions in the Careers section. There's a difference between the exam being in date and the exam being valid, so let me explain. When you pass the RGP Police Entrance Exam, this pass will remain in date for 3 years. There is an exception to this. If the RGP fundamentally changes the way that they assess, they may invalidate an exam. This is an unlikely scenario, but as good practice, you should check both the exam validity and your expiry date. This can be checked on our website and on your exam pass certificate. As you can see on screen under the frequently asked questions, is my exam valid? There will be a list of valid exam versions. At this point it is V1 version 1. I'll show you an example of a pass certificate that you would receive if you passed your exam. As you can see, we have got an exam version V1 and the serial number or code that you will be provided with upon passing. You've also got an expiry date. If you scroll to the bottom of this certificate, you will see some text which reads, "This pass will be valid up to and including the expiry date or where there is a fundamental change in how the RGP assesses, whichever is sooner." Valid exam versions can be located on the RGP website. If you're 17, you're free to sit the exam and fitness, as well as submitting your application form. It's best to check when the expected start date of the training school would be. If you're not 18 by this date, your application will not be accepted. As discussed before, your exam pass will likely be valid for 3 years. Now, the drop-down options are fairly self-explanatory. First, you hold a valid and in-date RGP Police Entrance Exam certificate and code. Select yes or no. If you do select no, it makes it clear the application will not be accepted. Do you meet the eligibility criteria? Again, yes or no. Which residency card do you carry? So that can be red, blue, green or none. Now, it may well be that you do not have a residency card. If you don't have one, it's likely that you're not eligible, but there may be exemptions that apply. And again, you can see that at the top of the screen. In which way do you meet the eligibility? There's going to be several options there. Gibraltarian, 3-year residence, ex-UK Home Office Police Force, etc. The rest are on the list there. If you do find that you've selected "I am eligible for a reason not listed above," again, it's likely that you're not actually eligible, but again, you can check the exemptions at the top of the screen. And finally, how many years have you been resident in Gibraltar? Select the number. If it's less than 3 years, again, you may not be eligible unless you have an exemption. If you're happy that you can complete this tab and you're still eligible, return to the tab A2, what do I need before starting? This tab will explain in detail the various bits of paperwork and information that you'll need to obtain prior to submitting your application. Failure to provide the details requested will lower your application score or result in it being rejected. It covers the required identification documents, being your passport, identity card or driver's license, and also the means of establishing residence. That will be your current utility or mobile phone bill, or a local tax/rates bill. And again, this should be recent as it's a proof of residency. Where the above means of proving residence exist, they must be provided. We are, however, aware that applicants may still live at home and not have the required residency documents. Where this applies, these instructions should be followed so that you can provide documents that we can accept. Tattoos are commonplace in society, and these are unlikely to adversely impact your application, although conditions will apply with this and they'll be taken on a case-by-case basis. In relation to basic disclosure, this should be submitted for those where this paragraph applies. If you do have a basic disclosure that is less than 6 months old, this will be accepted. You can see on the page that you've got the 3 links for the disclosure requests from England, Scotland and Northern Ireland. Tab A4 will then ask you for details surrounding the required documentation discussed. You will be asked for proof of identity, proof of residency, your photograph, and there's also a section for appraisals. Now, appraisals should be submitted where you're a serving or previously serving police officer. There's a further section for non-local applicants to explain what research they've conducted as to the financial viability of moving to Gibraltar. There's a further drop-down to confirm whether you consent to your email address being shared with other candidates applying from the UK or Spain. In relation to tattoos, you'll be able to select whether you've got any, look at the information provided, and stipulate any descriptions or attach any photographs. The vetting section will allow you to upload the valid vetting certificate and select the appropriate option. And the exam section will allow you to input the exam code or serial number, as well as uploading the examination document confirming that you've passed. The tab B nominal details is again fairly self-explanatory. There's various fields, fill in all of them as required on part B1, ensuring that no mistakes are made. B2 is our equality monitoring. This focuses on gathering information to support our diversity, equality and inclusion strategy 2021 to 2026. This data helps us improve our marketing aimed at making the RGP a more inclusive place to work. There are various fields to fill in. A lot of them will have a prefer not to disclose option, should you prefer not to fill in these fields. Tab B3 needs to contain your contact information. Take extra care to ensure that your email address is filled in properly so that we can contact you effectively. Tab B4 is where you will input your current address. This should obviously match with your proof of residency documents you've provided, and you must include the date that you started living at this address. Tab B5 is where you will tell us whether or not you have a driver's license and what categories are relevant to you, if any. And tab B6 is where you will tell us about your linguistic abilities and variation, i.e. what your language levels are and how good you're at speaking it. If you scroll back to the top of the page and select tab C, you will find a page that contains various common qualifications or police-related / transferable skill sets that may apply to being a police officer. There's also a free text box where you can list any other qualifications not available that you feel may be relevant to the role that you're applying for. Tab D is for you to tell us about your employment history. There are 2 additional sub-tabs labelled HM Forces and Police. You must tell us about your current or last employment in the required format as shown. If you have police employment to record, this will need to be duplicated in the police section as well as in this section. You must input the required details as well as your employment start date and any notice period that you would need to give. The bottom half of this page has a free text box where you must provide details of any internal or occupational misconduct or disciplinary investigations. If this does not apply to you, you would simply type NA for not applicable. Moving on to the D2 HM Forces tab, you will be forced to select whether you have served or are serving in HM Forces. For this, we'll select no, but obviously if you did serve or are serving, you would fill in all the key fields. Moving on to D3 for the police, again you will be asked to confirm whether or not you are or were a police officer. Again, we'll select no for this. For the top half of this page, you will have to provide details of any police application, including the one that you were successful for, if any. The bottom page will be what service you have actually had in the police, whether that is one police force or whether it's multiple forces. Again, if neither of these apply to you, simply type NA for not applicable. Remember, serving police officers should also attach a copy of their recent appraisal to the application form. This should be placed in the vetting part at the start of the application. If we move on to tab E, personal statement, you will be asked in no more than 1,000 words to highlight your experience, particular skills or training of relevance to the post you're applying for. It should be in line with the Royal Gibraltar Police Code of Ethics and the person specification. All of this information can be found on our website under either the Join Us or Careers section. On this page, you will see that there's a picture. This has got our Code of Ethics. It would be advisable to consider your personal statement at this time, ensuring that you refer to our Code of Ethics and the person specification detailed in the below sections. This can be done even before application and can be saved in a different document to be pasted in later on. Underneath, what does the role of the police constable entail? You'll find out all the different roles, or some of the different roles you'll be expected to fulfill. And if you move down to person specification, you will see a table. On the right side, you have got key skills that are desirable. On the left side, you've got key skills that are essential. You should be proving to us at this point that you meet the key skills in the essential element of that table. After completing the personal statement, you would move on to tab F, which is the additional information. You won't necessarily have anything to put in here. It may be a not applicable, or it may be that you have to provide us with something that needs clarified from earlier on in the application. There's also a drop down where you can tell us where it was that you saw our application or recruitment in the first place. This helps us mark it better in the future. Tab G is the final tab. This is the declaration. It is split into G1 disclosure and G2 final declaration. These are arguably two of the most important sections of the application form. It's absolutely imperative that you consider each bullet point on this page, read and understand them fully. Some applicants do not declare information which they believe is no longer held on record. However, our inquiries will reveal incidents from long ago, and failure to disclose these may lead to your application being rejected. If you have any doubts at all, include the details and let us decide if they are relevant. Failure to disclose any information requested in this section may lead to the withdrawal of an offer of appointment or termination of appointment if you have already been appointed. Tab G2, Final Declaration, again must be considered carefully. This will be when you declare that all the statements that you have made are true and that you have not deliberately left out any information. You will see at the bottom of this page that there is a signature box. You can draw your signature with your mouse, or if you're on a tablet, you can sign this by using your finger or a touchpad pencil. It is important to understand that once you sign this and submit the form, you are agreeing to all of the points above, and this may be referred to at a later date if that is necessary. If you submit your application without a signature, it will not be accepted.